Thank you. And I'll continue to also admit folks as you do that. So good morning, well, good afternoon, everyone. We want to thank you for joining us for our third forum session that has been hosted with the Network for College Success and Graduate NYC. We will store all resources and recordings at the Graduate NYC's COVID-19 response page for community partners. So again, if you miss any elements of today's session, or if you have to leave early, if you visit that website, you will be able to see the resources from today's event as well as our previous events. And so we're going to get started. Let's make sure the presentation is working. So for the format for today, again, we want to welcome you. My name is Latifa Washington. I'm the project manager for the Network for College Success. If you're not familiar with us, we partner with community-based organizations that are supporting students through their college success process and provide them with information regarding different CUNY initiatives, updates, and policies. We work in tandem in partnership with Graduate NYC, so I'll let Melissa introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. This is Melissa. I'm with Graduate NYC. We're part of the partnership between the New York State Department of Education and the City University. We work with a large network of CBOs and do a lot of work in partnership with the Network for College Success. And like Latifa mentioned, all of the resources from today's forum will be available on our website. I threw the link into the chat. So on there you can find all of the previous PowerPoints and resources. There's a lot of information on there right now about how to help students with financial aid. There's a lot of information about enrollment and matriculation at CUNY, and then after next week we'll have information about SUNY as well. So hopefully that will be a resource to you, and feel free to chat me if you have any questions about that or have suggestions of things that we should add.
Hi, also on the line is other members of the Graduate NYC team, so Alex and Charlene. We also have a director of community partnerships for K-16, Rebecca Beeman, who is letting you all in and managing today's session virtually. So just to get a quick recap of how today's flow of the forum will be. Sorry for the delay in my screens. We're going to hand over the PowerPoint presentation to amazing representatives from Single Stop. They will present one of their online screener features, as well as give us some tips around case management for supporting students as they may have to apply for different benefits and services. So I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Kelly. We're having issues hearing you. Can you just check your mic one more time?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to just share my screen with you all. All right, and I'm going to actually hand this over to my colleague Jen to kick us off.
Great, thanks so much, Kelly. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much for the introduction, Latifa, and we're really happy to be here to support the CUNY's Network for Success and all the students that you support. So I'm Jen Schumacher-Kochik. I am the Regional Director of Business Development Single Stop, and I work to build relationships with community-based organizations and community colleges across the region to connect those in need with available resources. And I'll let Kelly introduce herself as well.
Great, thanks, Jen. Yeah, so I'm Kelly Curry. I'm a licensed social worker, and I work as part of our partner services team here with Single Stop.
So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Single Stop, we're a national organization with our beginnings right here in New York City over a decade ago. Single Stop builds pathways out of poverty by leveraging partnerships with community-based organizations and community colleges to connect people to existing resources, all through a unique one-stop shop. Today, we're specifically going to be talking about our team's response to helping those communities most in need during the current COVID-19 pandemic. Single Stop has taken several actions to increase access to those in need, including a public-facing version of our benefits screener and COVID-19 fact sheets. Kelly, could you shift to the next slide, please? So just to give you a brief run through of the objectives today for this conversation, we're going to be reviewing our response and resources. Specifically, we're going to be walking through the public benefits screener. So this is something that you can be sharing with your students, or students themselves can be doing this. We're going to explore strategies for altering in-person elements to serve clients virtually. Because of the fact that we're doing social distancing right now, it is very important to still maintain that connection. We're going to consider workarounds for common challenges with the virtual interactions with your students and clients. And we're going to review some promising practices for virtual relationship building, consent, and privacy. And of course, we're looking at light case management right now, because we know it's difficult to be doing case management work remotely. And Kelly, can you shift to the next slide, please? So this is an incredibly important web address, so definitely bookmark this. It's singlestop.org/COVID-19. This is where you can access all of our COVID-19 resources, the screener for the benefits, as well as our local fact sheets, which I'll be going through in detail. And all the information that is here on this website is updated on a weekly basis. And so we continue to monitor what's happening on the ground and the policies that are changing, and it's updated accordingly. Kelly, can you shift to the next slide, please? So specifically, if you're familiar with Single Stop, then you know historically we've had a benefits screener that has screened individuals for eligibility for a range of public benefits, including SNAP, which is traditionally known as food stamps, the WIC program, Women, Infants, and Children, different healthcare program eligibilities throughout the New York City area, and the tax credit programs as well. So earned income tax and child tax credit program and the free tax program that we provide. The public-facing version of the screener is user-friendly, it's web-based, and also has access to local resources to search for other potentially needed benefits, such as food pantries, legal services, employment, and things of that nature. So we have made this available for all individuals publicly during the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure that anyone who's in need can get access to these resources. And it's a very easy to navigate public benefits screener, which we'll be showing shortly. And it's also available in English, Spanish, and Mandarin. Kelly, could you go to the next slide, please? So this is a quick screenshot of our public benefits screener. If you go to this link here, you'll see it directly, and it's very easy to use. However, we do know that sometimes some people may be concerned about putting their information into a web-based tool, or they may have some concerns or questions about how to use the tool. And so for anybody who would like some guidance on how to access our screener, you'll see at the bottom of the screen, there is a registration link for a webinar that's being held every Tuesday at 11 a.m. and Thursday at 1 p.m. to demonstrate how to use the screener. So for those individuals who are uncomfortable with using web-based technologies to provide personal information, they can access this webinar to get a little bit more information about it before using the screener itself. Kelly, could you go to the next slide, please? So I'm just going to walk you through a couple of the basic screenshots of the public benefits screener tool. So as you can see, first we ask a few basic information questions about the individual who is starting this screener. And it really only takes about 10 minutes for one individual to fill this out. And for each individual additional household member that is part of the household that needs to be entered into the screener, it only takes about an extra 3 to 5 minutes. What this does is it allows participants to create a profile where they can update their information when income and expenses change. And so they can see their eligibility in real time, how much they might be eligible for, what benefits they would be applicable for applying to. It also provides an option to decline to answer certain questions or select I don't know, because we understand that sometimes some students may not be able to answer all questions fully, so it provides that option. And once the individual has entered the basic information about their education, their income for the last 30 days, their expenses, we then move on to the other household members in the home. Could you move to the next slide, Kelly? So here in this next screenshot, you'll see that we ask basic questions again about the other household members. And what's really important to see, if you look on the right side of each of those screenshots, you'll see that there's a calculator that estimates how much the individual household may be eligible for. So for example, $194 in SNAP benefits, or potential tax refund benefits in New York City or state. And so this is very helpful as the individual is going through the screening process to see that they're eligible for a certain benefit, and it's an incentive for them to continue to proceed to actually apply for that benefit. And I know that there have been some questions, particularly in the New York City area, about individuals who have mixed immigration status. And so the questions within this screener do ask about what the status is for each member of the household. But if there are any specific questions regarding immigration status and about eligibility for benefits, we recommend that individuals call the New York State Office of New American Immigration hotline at 1-800-566-7636, or to contact Action NYC, 1-800-354-0365. And these are two resources for all New Yorkers to ensure that they're getting the correct and up-to-date, accurate information regarding benefits eligibility and immigration status. We understand that this is a very complicated area, and with mixed status households, it's incredibly important that the most knowledgeable legal staff possible advise as to what makes the most sense for a household or individual to apply for a benefit. Kelly, could you shift to the next slide, please? So once an individual household has submitted their profile, they get a quick summary of the potential benefits they're eligible for. And that's a screenshot that you see here on the left side of the screen. So first, you'll see that there is a link to our COVID-19 fact sheet, which I'll talk a little bit more shortly. And then after that, there's a listing of all the potential benefits that the individual may be eligible for, as well as what would be the next steps in order to provide information to submit the application for that particular benefit. In addition, the other resource that we think is extremely important at this dire time during COVID-19 is our local resources tool, which you'll see a snapshot on the right side of the screen here. What this is a zip code based search tool that is always available for individuals to look and identify which partners are in the region that may provide food pantries, assistance with transportation, assistance with immigration or housing, in addition to the other public benefits that you might be eligible for. And you can filter this based on the particular areas of support you're looking for, the zip codes that you're looking for, and it also shows where these particular partners are within the transportation network, as you can see in the snapshot here. Of course, as things have changed a lot during COVID-19 because we are practicing social distancing, many CBOs are currently operating different hours or doing work remotely. And so we always advise that individuals contact the organization first before going in person, because we don't know what the protocols are, and they've been changing week to week depending on how things have changed within the policy for New York City and New York State. So Kelly, could you shift to the next one, please? So as I mentioned previously, another key piece that the Single Stop team has rolled out in response to COVID-19 is our fact sheets. So here on the left, you have a screenshot of our fact sheet, which is available on our website, that link that you saw at the beginning of the presentation. These are updated on a weekly basis in response to all the changes that are happening regularly regarding policies and programs that are available for New Yorkers. So these are PDFs that are available for anybody to download and use. As I said before, we do recommend that you call the organization prior to actually going in person to find out what the processes are and the protocols before actually going in person. We're trying as much as possible to assist people virtually. And in addition to that, we recommend that you do not download this form and then send it out via mass email or something of that nature. Because things are changing on a regular basis, we recommend that you send the link to this document. Because it's updated, then when they go to that link, they will get the most up-to-date version possible. On the right side of the screen, you will see our toolkit. And this is a really important benefit resource that we have as part of our benefits screener. So as I mentioned earlier, when an individual goes through a public benefits screener, at the last stage, they'll see which benefits they're eligible for and the amount of potential resources they can get through those particular programs. After that, they'll receive an email from our single stop team that will be walking through what we have seen as the individual is eligible for, and we'll provide the SNAP toolkits or other benefit toolkits that are available. And as you can see here on this screenshot here on the right, they provide additional information that talks about what the benefits program purpose is, the income and household size guidelines, particularly in case there were some gray areas as to some information that the individual was not able to put into the screener, as well as step-by-step directions for how to apply online or via other remote ways, particularly now in the system with COVID-19 restrictions. And there's also a section on what to expect after you apply, how long it will take, whether or not you have to do a phone interview or things of that nature. And finally, what's really important is also directions for how to keep and maintain the benefit and when to recertify as necessary, which is incredibly important right now. We know that some benefits are only happening for a short-term period in response to COVID-19. And so these are information that are key to ensuring that the community is able to obtain and maintain the benefits as long as needed. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Kelly, who's going to turn to the next portion of this conversation.
Thanks, Jen. Before I move on, Jen, there was a couple questions that I saw come through the chat. Some folks were wondering if you could repeat those resources for the mixed status families. If you are able to get it into the chat box, I think that would be helpful. If not, we can review at the very end.
Sure, I will try to see if I can throw it into the chat box now, and if not, we'll repeat it at the end. Thank you so much for highlighting that, Kelly.
Sure. So thanks, Jen. We wanted to take a minute now to just talk to you all about making that move to connecting virtually with your clients. We know that most of our partners and really all of the direct service providers that we've talked to have had to move their service delivery to remote virtual environments in response to COVID-19. So we try to make this experience with our students and our clients as positive as possible. And to do this, we wanted to share with you some tips to make that a successful interaction with your students. And we also wanted to talk to you about some common barriers that you might face and different ways that you can overcome them. So as we've all made this move to virtual work, we've become a lot more familiar with video conferencing as a tool for connecting with our colleagues. And now we're going to be connecting with our clients in the same way. So we like to suggest that whenever possible, consider using a video conferencing tool to actually connect with your clients so that they can see you. And some of the platforms our partners have been most comfortable utilizing are up here on the screen. Right now we're obviously using Zoom, but there's also things like Skype or Microsoft Teams. We've also heard from some people that their clients are more comfortable using FaceTime. So if you're just getting started with these platforms, we like to suggest that you take some time to get comfortable before you go live with your clients. You can practice with your friends and your family members just to make sure that you're ready to use the tool. A lot of different platforms also have online tutorials to help you get comfortable and learn about all of the features available. So make sure that you know how to also utilize the screen sharing function of the tool that you're using. That's what I'm using with you all right now to share this PowerPoint. And that really allows for your client to visually see what's on your screen during that meeting. Also, when you're meeting with a client virtually, we like to suggest that you try to take on the role of a coach. Most of our clients and students are going to be very new to connecting in this way, so try to be able to coach them through using the tool as you're meeting. We also know that our clients have different levels of comfort with technology, so if your client isn't able to connect by video, remember that a phone call can also be equally as effective. So as you get comfortable using video conferencing, get ready to start setting up your actual virtual space that you're going to be physically in. We always suggest that you try to keep your virtual meetings as true as possible to the original flow of your in-person meetings. So, you know, with that said, make sure that you're in a quiet, private space to ensure confidentiality. And if your workspace is in a shared environment, if you're living with your family or you have a roommate, you have children in the home, you may want to just consider letting those folks know that you're in a private meeting ahead of time to avoid any kind of interruption. And you can do this by, you know, just putting a little note on the door to let them know, do not disturb. Also, always be aware of background noise from a TV or even things as, you know, the summer is moving in, an air conditioner can often make a lot of noise, so you may not want to set up right next to an air conditioner. And always consider what's directly behind you, you know, what's in view of the camera. It's really best to have a plain wall behind you and something that will be least likely to cause a distraction in your meeting. Also, remember to dress professionally just like you were if you were meeting with your students or your clients in your office. And before the meeting, think about what tools you're going to need during the interaction. So you can go ahead and pull up any websites or documents ahead of time that you may need during the meeting just to save time, so that you're not having to go through your computer during the meeting with your client to find those things. So we know that virtual work definitely comes along with barriers and challenges that we don't usually have to face with in-person work with our students and clients. And these are some of the most common things that our partners have been facing over these past several weeks. First, we know that everyone has different levels of comfort with technology, and for some of us, moving to a virtual environment overnight was pretty difficult. So if you're someone that isn't super comfortable with technology, don't be afraid to reach out to your supervisor or colleagues for help so that you can provide the best service possible to your students, to your clients. Always have a point of contact available if you do encounter an issue when you're connecting virtually, and try to troubleshoot through things ahead of time with that point of contact in areas that you're not comfortable in, just so that when you are meeting with your client, it feels a little more comfortable for you both. Always talk to your client before the virtual meeting to ensure that they have the tools that they need and that they're comfortable meeting with you in a virtual session. So some of our partners have put together like a how-to guide, just walking through how to access certain things, and it can be as basic as even how to access a web browser. If you are going to do something like that, consider using screenshots or different pictures just to make it easier for your client when they're logging in. Always try to use the same platform. So if your organization is using Zoom, stick to Zoom. But if your client is more comfortable using something like FaceTime or Microsoft Teams, always go with what your client is more comfortable with, because we want to make sure that they're comfortable during this meeting. So we know that virtual environments rely heavily on Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi can often become spotty, even more so now with so many people utilizing it at the same time. So really a good tip is to kind of test out your Wi-Fi throughout the day, make sure that you have a strong connection, and address this right at the beginning of your meeting with your client. Try to get a backup phone number or an email address that you can reach out to them in the case that your Wi-Fi does go out. It's also a good idea to identify your IT point of contact with your employer, who can sometimes help you troubleshoot different things and get your connection up and running. So we also know that a lot of our students and our clients have special needs that we need to consider, and that doesn't change even though we're connecting virtually. So try to look into features that are available through the platform that your organization is regularly utilizing. Things like closed captions are often available in these platforms. I know for sure that Zoom does offer that. And you can also look into different transcription services that are available. And regardless, it's always a good idea to follow up with your client via email with just some written notes about what you did go over. So on this next slide, you're going to see some resources that we wanted you all to have, and you will get a copy of this following the meeting, just for different Wi-Fi assistance programs. So if folks don't have access to Wi-Fi, or maybe they're not able to afford their Wi-Fi bill at this time, these are some places that they can tap into to get some assistance. So next, we just wanted to talk to you about creating that virtual safe space with a client. We want to talk to you about the importance of building rapport with clients and how to do this virtually, as well as we'll share some best practices for sharing information in this virtual environment and how to maintain client privacy. So building rapport with clients is really a crucial part of the work that we do in person, and it becomes really essential in a virtual setting. And that's because the relationship between our students and the staff, it really needs to be rooted in trust so that your students feel comfortable sharing their personal, often difficult to talk about information with you. We know that our students are experiencing various circumstances right now, many of which can be really difficult to talk about in general, let alone with someone that they're not physically with. So if our clients don't feel comfortable to share that information with us, they may leave out important information that could be directly related to benefits and services that they're eligible for. But how can you build this trust virtually? I like to ask people to think about what it would take for you to trust someone, especially someone that you're engaging with over the phone or via the internet. So whenever possible, utilize a camera so your clients can visually see you, and try to make as much eye contact as possible just to let your clients know that you're focused in on them. Also remember that your body language counts, so you want to sit in a non-threatening way, don't cross your arms, and try to sit up as straight as possible. And if you can't connect using a camera, your verbal communication is going to be super important. So you have to make sure that you're responsive often with your client to let them know that you're still there and you're still listening, but remember not to interrupt them. We also like to remind people not to be robotic in your responses. So while you may want to have a template or a script to guide your meeting with your client, keep things as personal as possible since each case really is unique. We also like to encourage everyone to use what's called reflective listening when you're working with your clients in this virtual environment. And you can do that by really repeating the message you've heard your client share with you back to them in a non-threatening way. So it allows them to really hear that you've understood what they shared, and it also allows for them to tell you if what you've heard is accurate. So you can start off by minimizing distractions. If your student or your client has something distracting going on in the background, a noise, maybe there's a baby crying, try your best not to pay attention to those things and really focus in on the content of the message. And when you respond, use phrases that really make your clients feel like they're being heard and that you're not giving them a directive. So you can start off by saying something like, "What I'm hearing you say is." And always use supportive language to affirm what the client is feeling. So in this case, you might say something like, "It sounds like you're experiencing a lot right now, but this is a step in a direction to help you get where you want to be." And you can also try to summarize what your client said to you when you repeat it back to them, just to be sure you heard it correctly. So for example, you can say something like, "So you lost your job last week and you're not sure how you're going to pay your bills on the first of the month. Is that correct?" And just keep in mind that in these circumstances, and really in all circumstances, all the person really needs sometimes is to be heard. So when you're practicing reflective listening with your students, it's a great way to make sure that their voice is being heard. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about information sharing in this virtual setting, which we really do rely on for various reasons. We need our clients to share information with us so that we can be accurate in the support that we provide to them. But sharing information can often be difficult for our clients due to the sensitive nature of the information that we need. So as we build that trust and rapport with clients, that process of sharing information often becomes a little less difficult for them. And when we work with our clients in person, one of the practices that we use to build that rapport is to kind of situate the way that we sit so that our clients can see how we're sharing their information. Make sure that what they're sharing with us is being entered correctly into the computer and not altered in any way. So when we work with our clients virtually, we want to try to ensure that, oh, I'm sorry, does someone have a question? Okay, sorry. So when we work with our clients virtually, we want to try to mirror that same relationship. And one of the ways that we can do this, we can create that same environment for our clients, is to utilize that screen sharing feature. So when you start your virtual appointment with your client, we also like to suggest that you give your client the option of having the meeting recorded. If your client does want the meeting recorded, just ask them to sign in a virtual consent. You can use DocuSign to do that. Or when you hit the record button, just ask them to verbally agree. And that really creates an opportunity for your client to watch the recording afterwards to be reminded of the work that you've done together. But regardless of if you record the session or not, screen sharing really creates that environment where your client gets all the benefits of sitting right next to you during an in-person meeting. Now I'm going to just move to the last portion here. All this talk about, sharing information probably has brought up some concerns around consent, right? So client privacy and consent is important regardless of if we're connecting in person or virtually. And when you're working virtually with a client, we want to encourage you to adhere to all HIPAA and FERPA policies and procedures. So again, that means working in a quiet space where no one else can hear your client or can see your client if they're connecting with you via video. If you connect with a client using the video feature, something we like to suggest is that you actually pick up your computer and just scan the room you're in to let them know that you're in a private space where no one else is going to be hearing what they're sharing with you. If you're only able to connect by phone, make sure that you tell them what your physical location is to really reinforce that, everything shared is going to stay between the two of you. When you are using the screen share feature, just be mindful that your client is going to see what's on your screen. So you want to make sure that you go into your web browser and close out any tabs that you wouldn't want your client to see that you have open. Also, never click on any full client list or any documents that may have other clients' information on it. And that really allows your client to know that you're going to protect their information moving forward as well. So a best practice whenever you are meeting with your client is to start off by actually pulling up your privacy and consent forms and reviewing it together to make sure that they understand what they're doing with you right up front. And always check with your executive team about what types of consents you need to have in place in order to conduct virtual work with clients. Sometimes you can do this using DocuSign, or maybe you already have something in place and you don't have to create something new. So now we wanted to definitely open this up for some questions. I know that there were some questions earlier for Jen related to the immigration information that we shared, but please feel free to jump in and ask any questions now.
So if you're not familiar, you have the option to raise your hand via the participant section, reactions, and we can call on you, or you can just feel free to unmute your microphone and ask your question directly.
Thank you so much for the presentation, very informative. Wondering how Single Stop might help people apply for unemployment, or if that's a different way people should be applying for that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now, our screener does not screen for eligibility for unemployment, but we are definitely directing people to the offices and the resources they need to apply for unemployment. So really, anyone can screen themselves using our public benefits screener, and any additional services they need outside of what we screen for, we will connect them to. So we're seeing things come in for things like financial aid assistance, referrals to food pantries, all different things, and we can connect people to those things.
And so if you look at that local resources page, there's options there to filter for the particular resource that they're looking for. And so that's where they can look for some of that assistance with making sure they get unemployment benefits, and then particularly also job retraining and things of that nature that may become important as things progress.
Great, thank you.
So I see that somebody's asked a question regarding whether more than one individual in the household can receive the benefit, and that really relates to the particular benefit that is being discussed. So when it comes to SNAP, again, for those households with mixed status, there may be one individual, for example, a child, that would be eligible for the SNAP benefit, whereas the parents, if they have a different status, may not be eligible for it, but the child is eligible for it and can get the benefit. And the same holds true for other situations. Depending upon the benefit that's available, the entire household may be eligible or may just be one or two individuals, depending on what the benefit requirements are.
So I see another question in the chat box asking if this is free for students to access. And yes, it is definitely free for students and their families, their friends, the general public to access right now. I'm going to drop the link into the chat box just in case you didn't get it earlier. You can click on the link and you can access the public screener. I did want to mention though, if the student is a part of a CUNY school that is already partnered with Single Stop, they can still go to the school or contact the school to be screened through the school. So some of our partners do have their Single Stop offices still open and functioning virtually, so they can be in touch with their school. But if the student is a part of a school that does not have the Single Stop office, yes, absolutely use this free screener for the time being.
There's a question that came in the chat. Could you share which CUNY schools you work with? Is it on your website, which schools are partnered with Single Stop?
So we can share that with you. We'll send the list of CUNY schools.
So I see another question that came through about the time frame for individuals to receive benefits like SNAP. Sometimes it can take 2 weeks, sometimes it can be expedited. And really for all benefits right now, we wanted to direct you to the HRA website because there's a lot of different accommodations being put in place right now. They are expediting certain benefits and they're also making accommodations for appearing in person in the office. So most of these benefits you can actually get applying online and you wouldn't have to show up in person, but they are changing their guidelines on a weekly basis. So definitely go to the HRA website just to see what is new this week in terms of receiving benefits. And also for anyone that has to recertify for benefits, if maybe their SNAP case is up for recertification, right now, HRA has made a lot of accommodations so that it's just going to automatically renew and you don't have to show any documentation at this time.
Hi, my name is Deandra. I work with Queens Community House as a college retention specialist, and I have a student who has been in the process of applying for unemployment over the last several weeks, and every time he calls, it's constantly busy and he's never able to get in contact with anyone. So is there any way to kind of get through this hurdle and to get his benefits? Because he's been in this process for almost a month.
Yeah, we are hearing that. I've been trying to follow some of the government websites just to see what they're putting in place. I know that they're saying that they're hiring some more folks in the call center to review those applications. But at this time, I'm not sure of anything that's in place to kind of expedite that.
Okay, thank you.
So I see there was another question regarding financial aid and assisting students with applying for FAFSA or other sorts of financial service referrals. And so again, each partner has a different set of programs that they provide and services. And so you could filter for those financial services through our local resources area to find the closest organization that can provide that support to the student.
All right, we have 2 more minutes for questions. If anyone has anything that they would like to ask, or even we would also like to open up the space for you to share if there's any resources as counselors you've been providing to students or links or offices or departments you have been finding to be helpful with supporting students during this time regarding benefits?
Hello. So I was the person that asked the question about financial aid. I just wanted to clarify. I have a student that doesn't qualify for FAFSA, and so I was wondering if I'd be able to refer her to y'all to get a little bit more of assistance in finding other resources that she can use to finance school.
Sure, absolutely. I know that we helped someone just today look for some resources as a non-citizen student who was looking for financial aid, and we were able to help them get connected. So absolutely, feel free to refer that particular student to our public screener.
Hi, this is Deandra again. I had a question. I understand that the policy with CUNY is that all students should remain in their classes unless there's extreme or extenuous circumstances. For any student who has to withdraw because either they themselves or a family member contracted COVID-19, what is the process to do the appeal form when it comes to them incurring balances for next semester? And what would be the process of them like registering for fall classes as well?
That's an interesting question. You know, I don't have an answer for you right now. I think my first step would be to talk to the financial aid office, but I think Jen and I can put our heads together and maybe follow up with an email so we can get some more information for you, because I'm sure that's going to be a common issue.
Thank you very much. And just a follow-up question regarding appeal process. So I also understand that CUNY has started a new link in CUNY's First with the upload tool. So for students who don't have access to printers or scanners, how will we be able to accommodate them? Or would they be able to call and have these documents mailed to them, for instance?
So I think that's also a really important point, because I think access to those sorts of tools are going to be limited across the board. And I'm wondering if there are options for doing it through, you know, mobile devices where you can do PDF versions of things and send those and take a picture. I know that there's a lot of offices now that have shifted to those sorts of formats in order to accommodate the fact that printing something or getting hard copies is quite challenging right now.
Thank you very much. And as a final question, has there been any changes in the process to do appeals from previous semesters because of COVID-19?
So because we're not related directly to the CUNY system and appeals for things of the financial compensation and the payments, I really wouldn't want to speak out of turn as to what that process is, and I would direct them to communicate with their financial aid offices regarding those particular ones.
In addition, Melissa just shared a link to the Graduate NYC resource guide website. There are some links to some CUNY specific centralized web pages for students who are currently in student. There's a continuity page that CUNY has launched that has some frequently asked questions. So that might also be a resource for you. Also, if there's any questions regarding enrollment or matriculation concerns, they also have a future student page that has also been launched at CUNY. And there is a link to that in the Graduate NYC CBO needs and resources webpage. So thank you for all of your questions. And I want to thank Kelly and Jen again for facilitating this conversation. As you mentioned, the recording from today, as well as the materials and resources and links that were shared during this conversation, will be uploaded to the Graduate NYC page. If you would like to stop share, I'll just post the link to the Grad NYC page again. Share screen. So as I mentioned before, Melissa has shared the link in the chat. Sorry. So that is www.graduatenyc.org, CBO needs and resources. So if you go to the Graduate NYC webpage, there is a link that you can click and get access to that webpage. And as I mentioned before, there is a link to various resources that might be helpful for you within the CUNY enrollment as well as continuity websites. Just also wanted to update you that we will be hosting our next forum in conjunction with New Visions, and that will be, they will help to facilitate a conversation around SUNY EOP and SUNY enrollment updates. So you all are welcome to join that conversation. There is currently a Zoom registration that is now available, and we will share the link to that either in our newsletter, as well as if you're part of our listserv or a member of New Visions, you can sign in there. Melissa has just also added that link to the chat feature. And before you all leave, your responses and your feedback is very important for us to plan forums and webinars that are relevant to your needs as you support students through this time. So we do ask that you please complete a brief post survey with your feedback from today's session, as well as any ideas you have for any future sessions you would like us to host. Again, we want to thank you all for your time. And we look forward to seeing you at our future convenings. And again, if you're not a member of the Network for College Success and you're interested in being a part of our newsletter or listserv, receiving those correspondences, please email me and I will be able to share that with you all. I have noted all the resources that were shared via the chat feature, and we will be sure to upload those to the Graduate NYC page. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. So that is the conclusion